Good morning, Dr. Vigerust. I assume you can see and hear us well. You've joined us, I assume, from Nashville, Tennessee. I recognize the room you're in, so welcome to the show again.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.
As many can see our screens, as we said, you're well educated. I joke with both you and Dr. Brewer, both of you, between all of your fellowships and your postgraduate studies, the two of you spent a whole lot of your life in a classroom. And so I just summarized a couple of your degrees. I didn't go into all of your background, but always being on the show, I also wanted to remind everyone that I did graduate Ms. Walker's 6th grade manners school. So you're not the only educated person on this show today. So
continue to wisely use everything she taught you, right?
I try my best. I try my best. All right, let's talk a little bit about genetics. As you can see from the screen, I want to give a baseline first. Many of our listeners, we have some great listeners here. Many of them are providers themselves, scientists, as well as patients. But at the risk of maybe we do or maybe we don't all have the same basic understanding of the foundation of genetics and diabetics, let's talk a little bit about DNA. We use that term a lot. And this is not an exhaustive, this is a very basic illustration that I use for myself to understand, to lay the groundwork for what we're going to talk about with these three particular genetic variations that we're going to discuss. But DNA, of course, is just the building block of life. We can oversimplify it and just say it's the code. It's a computer code for our cells, and contained within the nuclei of our cells are these chromosomes, and on these chromosomes we have our genetic makeup. And we've seen the double helix was discovered in, I guess, 100 years ago, but really started coming to the forefront in the 1940s and 50s with Glick and Watson and Franklin and others, and discovering the composition of these. But for me to understand it, if you see the screen, I describe DNA as these base pairs, these crossbars that connect two intertwined ribbons. Those ribbons, of course, made up of phosphate and deoxyribose. And then between those ribbons, you have your base pairs. Those base pairs are made up of 4 different chemicals, as we see. We call it A, T, G, and C, or A, T, C, and G. Each of those have their own unique chemical marker in base pairs in order to start creating the base of these codes. And when you put 3 of those together, 3 of those chemical compounds, each 3 creates, if you would, a unique word. And those words are the word instructions to the cells to tell proteins what to do, to replicate or direct the function of the cells. And then when we talk about genes, genes are just sections of that DNA. In understanding myself and giving a baseline explanation, maybe slightly oversimplified, so our audience that are sophisticated can overlook that. But I always say a mutation, trying to understand the difference between mutations, deletions, duplications. A mutation is if A, T, G, C, 3 of those combined make up a word, then a mutation is when someone in your instructions has misspelled the word. So you may have a mutation where the A should be a C or the G should be a T, and that mutation has changed. Sometimes changing the word rot from rat, R-A-T to R-O-T, changes the meaning completely of a word. While at other times, someone can look at the change and still get the meaning of the word. Well, mutations in our genes are very similar. Sometimes it's significant, the change that occurs, and sometimes it's not significant. Rarely is a mutation good, if ever, but it does occur. Versus deletions in the strand of genes and the DNA. A deletion is like someone was copying a book or writing a book, a manuscript, and they just forgot a word. And again, forgetting that one word can be meaningful, or forgetting that one word may not change the meaning of the sentence at all. But a deletion is you've missed part of that code. And a duplication is like when you're copying something on the copy machine and you get an extra page, the same page copied over again. So occasionally, you buy a book, and when people bought books and still flip pages, I know everything's electronic now, but I still like picking the book up and reading it. And every once in a while, there's a mistake in a book where they made the copy of the same page. And you look, you flip, you go, well, they just made a mistake. And on so many books, they copied it. And then if someone ever copied that book again, they'd probably make the same mistake, make that copy over again. So duplications are very much like that. So what we're going to talk about today are some mutations, some deletions, some duplications within the genome makeup of an individual, particularly someone with diabetes. So Dave, do you want to comment on that, clarify that, clean my mess up, or have any comments whatsoever?
Sounds fine.
Dr. Brewer, the professor, and Dr. Vigerust, professor, has taught me well.
Continue to get great feedback regarding the webinars, and here's why. You know, on the internet, when you hear a webinar, you expect for somebody to try to sell you something. We're not doing that. We're trying to tell you something. People are coming in with their labs from Quest, inflammation panel, OGTT, insulin survey response, and then they're finding out, do I have inflammation? Do I have insulin resistance? And where does that fit in terms of other folks? We're getting ready to start one for CINT as well. So again, people are really excited about finding out their own status. Looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks.